Join our community by subscribing. Every click helps us share more stories like this one. The introduction. In the small town of Briarwood, the noise of bustling life often masked the shadows that lurked between the quaint, well-kept houses and sunny front yards. Residents greeted each other with warm smiles, but beneath that veneer of normality lay the remnants of a quiet, unsettling truth. It was a place where nothing ever seemed out of the ordinary until it was. As the autumn sun dipped below the horizon, the air turned crisp, carrying with it the earthy scent of fallen leaves. On a seemingly routine Tuesday morning, the peaceful rhythm of Briarwood was broken. The tranquility of the town gave way to whispers of a dark mystery that would grip the community for years to come. A missing persons report was filed, and as the sun cast long shadows across the empty streets, hope began to wane. Families started to lock their doors a little tighter, and parents kept their children close as the reality settled in. What had begun as an ordinary day in Briarwood had swiftly transformed into an unnerving chapter in the town's history. The local authorities mobilized, searching the wooded areas and the deserted paths that meandered through the outskirts of town, while the community clung to the hope of an imminent resolution. But as the days stretched into nights, the shadows deepened, and the mystery spun tighter. The unsolved disappearance would leave scars not just on the surface of the town, but deep within the hearts of its residents, forever altering their perception of safety and each other. The victim, at the center of Briarwood's unsettling tale, was the victim, Sarah Mitchell, a spirited and adventurous 24-year-old with dreams as vibrant as the painted sunsets she loved to photograph. Known for her infectious laughter and a knack for putting others at ease, Sarah had become a beloved figure in the town. She worked as a graphic designer, often spending her weekends exploring the countryside or hosting small gatherings with friends and family in her cozy apartment. On the day she went missing, the sky was painted with the kind of gentle blue that beckoned you outside. She had texted her mother, saying she was going to take one last hike in Elkwood Park, a local favorite with towering trees and winding trails. Her mother, accustomed to Sarah's adventurous spirit, responded with a simple, "Be careful. Love you." Little did she know this would be their last exchange. As the hours stretched on without a word from Sarah, her family began to worry. By nightfall, her absence transformed into alarm. The phone calls and frantic messages went unanswered. Sarah's world had suddenly gone quiet. It wasn't until the following morning that her worried family reported her disappearance to the local police. The days turned into a hand-wringing wait, punctuated by the sight of Sarah's smiling face on the flyers distributed across Briarwood. It was a stark reminder of who she was: a passionate artist, a loved daughter, and a friend to many, now missing against the backdrop of a town that thought they knew every secret it held. The search was a desperate grasp at hope amid growing shadows, where every hour felt like an eternity. The crime scene. The search for Sarah Mitchell culminated in a haunting location, Elkwood Park, an area characterized by its serene beauty, now transformed into a foreboding landscape. As the sun broke through the clouds on a chilly Thursday morning, a team of local law enforcement and volunteers gathered in the park, armed with flashlights and determination. Rumors had begun to swirl that something sinister lay hidden among the leafy underbrush, and it was here that their worst fears would begin to unveil. Off the well-trodden pathways, deeper into the thickets, something caught the glimmer of a passing beam. An officer knelt, brushing aside leaves to reveal a small, colorful Commersaras. Heartbeats quickened as they carefully examined the area. Nearby lay a patch of disturbed ground, signs of a struggle hidden beneath the fallen leaves. The sudden stillness of the forest pressed in like a vice, amplifying the ominous sensation that had begun to settle in their bones. The search intensified, and as they moved deeper into the woods, they uncovered remnants of a life interrupted. A vibrant scarf in a blend of blues and greens snagged on a thorny bush, a leather bracelet featuring small charms peeking out from beneath and featuring small charms peeking out from beneath the undergrowth. Each discovery dragged the police further into the unsettling realization that they might not be seeking a missing person, but investigating a crime. Overhead, the towering trees whispered their secrets, their branches swaying eerily with the wind, echoing the anxiety swelling in the hearts of the searchers. Every passing minute heightened the urgency as the forest murmured with the ghosts of unanswered questions. Was Sarah still alive? And if so, where was she? The desperation hung in the air, thick and heavy, intertwined with the haunting realization that a crime had been committed right under their very noses. The early investigation. In the chaotic wake following the discovery at Elkwood Park, the Briarwood Police Department initiated an exhaustive investigation. Detectives were mobilized, examining every detail and piece of evidence linked to Sarah Mitchell's disappearance. The small town had never faced such a grave mystery, and the stakes felt high not just for Sarah's family, but for the safety and nerves of the entire community. Detective Kevin Hartman, a veteran on the force with more than a decade of experience, took the lead. He vividly recalled the last case that had shaken Briarwood, a petty theft that hardly registered on the Richter scale compared to a missing person presumed in danger. With the weight of the town's anxiety resting on his shoulders, he ordered the establishment of a dedicated task force. Interviews with friends and family painted a complicated portrait of Sarah's life. While she was known for her warm nature, some hinted at darker threads woven into her story. A close friend, Jenna, mentioned a recent disagreement Sarah had with a colleague over a work project, which had left her feeling stressed and overwhelmed. She was just trying to find her footing, Jenna explained, her voice trembling as she recounted their last conversation. Meanwhile, Sarah's family shared their concerns about her recent involvement in late-night photography excursions, where she had encountered uncomfortable situations with strangers. As they began sifting through Sarah's personal effects, detectives discovered cryptic journal entries hinting at feelings of anxiety and betrayal. The clues formed a complex labyrinth of emotions and relationships, leading them through a maze of potential suspects. No one seemed to fit the bill perfectly, but as the investigation deepened, it became increasingly clear. The truth wasn't just lurking in the dense forest of Elkwood Park. It was wrapped tightly in the lives of those left behind. The dead ends, with leads rapidly dissipating and time slipping away. The investigation into Sarah Mitchell's disappearance transitioned into a frustrating series of dead ends. Despite the community's fervent desire to uncover the truth, every promising lead fizzled out like matchsticks in the wind, leaving the detectives grappling with growing despair. Surveillance footage collected from local businesses revealed nothing unusual. No sign of Sarah on the day she vanished. No trace of her hiking in Elkwood Park. Just glimpses of the everyday lives of Briarwood's residents, blissfully unaware of the chaos brewing within their town. Detective Hartman's team meticulously combed through social media, looking for any ominous messages or hints, but only found benign selfies and cheerful posts from friends who had spent hours trying to rally support in the search for her. As days turned into weeks, the atmosphere in the small town grew heavier. The once vibrant spirit of Briarwood dulled, painted over by worry and whispers of speculation. The police reached out to known offenders, checking their alibis and backgrounds. Yet each one proved to be a dead end. The growing frustration among investigators began to affect morale, especially amongst the rookie officers who had joined the force with a desire to make a difference. Cans of coffee littered the precinct as Hartman and his team pored over files, searching for anything that could reignite the investigation. But as they pored over the details of Sarah's life, they kept circling back to the echoes of her journal entries, a haunting reminder of her internal struggles and those elusive connections that could hold the key to her fate. Would the answer lie in piecing together her unrest? Or was it something darker, lurking just beyond their grasp? A break in the case. After weeks of relentless investigation, the clouds began to lift over the Briarwood Police Department as a breakthrough emerged in Sarah Mitchell's case. It was a chilly Tuesday morning when the local handyman walked into the precinct, looking anxious, clutching an old flip phone in his calloused hands. He had heard about Sarah's disappearance and wanted to share something that had been weighing on his conscience. The handyman, Bill Carson, disclosed that he had been working in Elkwood Park on the day Sarah was reported missing. He described how he had seen a woman matching Sarah's description hiking alone in the area. But it wasn't merely his sighting that piqued the interest of the detectives. It was what he claimed to have overheard shortly thereafter that sent goosebumps up their arms. Bill recounted a hushed conversation he stumbled upon while fixing a broken fence nearby. He had overheard two men discussing a girl who had seen too much as they stood in the shadows of the trees. The phrases swirled in his mind like an ominous song. When asked for more details, he recalled the men were dressed in dark clothing and left quickly when they spotted him. Their demeanor, he said, had been unsettling, glancing back at the woods as if expecting someone to follow. This new lead prompted an immediate response. Detective Hartman organized a search of the area where Bill had seen the men, focusing specifically on the dense undergrowth surrounding the park. In the days that followed, search teams scoured the vicinity, the air thick with urgency and renewed hope. While the team was cautious not to raise expectations too high, the whispers of possibility ignited their determination to find Sarah. Suddenly, the question wasn't merely one of where Sarah was, but who these men were and what they might have done. In the shadows of Elkwood Park, deeper truths began to emerge. And with them, the grim realization that time was running short. The suspect. As the investigation deepened, detectives began to hone in on a focal point who local residents with questionable backgrounds who matched the handyman's description. The first was Derek. A man in his 30s, prone to fits of anger, known for his erratic behavior, often linked to a series of minor criminal charges, including drug possession and public disturbance. The second was a friend of his, Luke Collins, known around town for his tense demeanor and a history of petty theft. The detectives wasted no time in bringing these men in for questioning. Derek presented himself as defensive, his eyes dark and restless. When asked about his whereabouts on the day of Sarah's disappearance, he claimed he was home, but he struggled to maintain eye contact, losing his composure when pressed for detail. His unpredictable temper flared as he accused the officers of harassing him, but the detectives remained calm, focused on the inconsistencies in his story. Luke, on the other hand, was more reserved, seemingly indifferent to the gravity of the situation. He had a scary calm about him, answering questions with a steeliness that sent shivers down the detective's spine. While he admitted to being in the vicinity of Elkwood Park that day, he flatly denied any wrongdoing, his alibi intertwining with vague claims of being alone, wandering the woods to escape the noise of town. With their initial questioning leaving more questions than answers, the detectives noted Derek and Luke's body language shifty and apprehensive. The tension in the air was palpable, each silence screaming a quiet accusation. When the detectives searched their vehicles, they discovered items that could potentially link them to Sarah, an old camera strap resembling Sarah's, along with other personal effects. As the pieces of the puzzle began to converge, a shadow darkened the case. The men were becoming more than just suspects. They were central figures in a narrative spiraling into the heart of the mystery. As Hartman and his team dug deeper, the question loomed potently. Could they finally unravel the truth hidden behind the facades of these men? The trial, months of relentless investigation, culminated as Derek Lawson and Luke Collins stood trial for the disappearance of Sarah Mitchell. The courtroom buzzed with tension, filled with family members, friends, and concerned citizens of Briarwood. The town, still reeling from the emotional toll Sarah's case had taken, closely followed every detail of the proceedings, marked by a mixture of hope and despair. The prosecution painted a damning picture of the defendants, presenting evidence that included forensic links between the men's belongings and Sarah. A forensic expert testified about the DNA found on the items confiscated from their cars, suggesting a connection that couldn't be easily dismissed. Eyewitness accounts corroborated their presence in the vicinity of Elkwood Park, and various circumstantial pieces filled the gaps, weaving a narrative of potential malice. The tension in the air thickened when the prosecution introduced Bill Carson, the handyman, who recounted the conversation he had overheard in the woods. The room fell silent as he testified about the unsettling phrases that haunted him, words that now seemed a dark prelude to a tragedy. The courtroom felt electric, each spoken word amplifying the weight of the unfulfilled hopes of Sarah's love. In stark contrast, the defense painted Derek and Luke as scapegoats, framing their clients' histories of petty crimes as irrelevant to the case at hand. They argued that mere proximity to the park on the day of Sarah's disappearance did not equate to guilt. Their attorney suggested that the prosecution had forged a narrative based on circumstantial evidence clinging to a desperate plea for justice in a town eager to find closure. As days turned into tension-filled weeks, the jurors began to show signs of weariness, their expressions betraying the gravity of their task. They were not merely judging evidence, but carrying the hopes of a community, straining under the weight of uncertainty. The verdict, when it finally arrived, promised to reverberate through Briarwood, determining not only the fate of the defendants, but the collective healing of a town irrevocably changed. The aftermath. As the gavel pounded down, sealing the verdict, a collective gasp filled the courtroom. The jury had reached a decision. Guilty. Derek Lawson and Luke Collins were convicted of kidnapping with intent to harm. And the community of Briarwood held its breath, suspended somewhere between relief and sorrow. The aftermath of the trial began to unfurl within the walls of the town, reverberating far beyond the courtroom's confines. Graduating from a painful chapter, Briarwood now faced the complexities of healing. For Sarah's family, even with justice served, the wound remained raw. They learned to cope with the void created by her absence. The vibrant life snuffed out too soon, leaving cherished memories tinged with grief. Each family gathering brought with it the weight of what was lost: a daughter, a sister, a friend. Community members banded together, determined to honor Sarah's memory. Memorials appeared in unexpected places. Blossoms planted in the local park, ribbons tied around the trees, and art installations created from photographs Sarah once took. Her presence was felt in every corner, an echo weaving through the fabric of the town. It became more than a tribute, a testament to resilience and a unity forged from shared heartbreak. But as the cries for justice faded, whispers began to emerge about the layers of fear that lingered beneath the surface. Questions lingered. Would Sarah's case fade from memory? Like so many others, how could a town known for its safety endure the shadow? In conversations held over coffee in local diners and casual chats among neighbors, residents grappled with the haunting question of personal safety and trust. Detective Hartman, too, felt the weight of unanswered questions. The trial may have concluded, but every aspect of the case replayed in his mind like an unfinished puzzle. What drove Derek and Luke to commit such a heinous act? And could it happen again? As he looked out onto the town he vowed to protect, Hartman recognized that Briarwood's journey had only just begun, with healing lying alongside lingering fears. A small town now irrevocably marked by a deep and unshakable scar. Reflection. In the quiet that followed the trial, the town of Briarwood slowly began the arduous journey of reflection. Residents resumed their routines, but the specter of Sarah Mitchell lingered like a haunting melody, a reminder that complacency could easily fracture into chaos. Sarah's story had become a catalyst for conversations about safety, vigilance, and the unseen battles that individuals face daily. Detective Hartman often found himself wandering through Elkwood Park, retracing the footsteps of the investigation. The trees whispered memories of both joy and heartache, a bittersweet reminder of how easily light could turn to shadow. He often wondered if Sarah would have felt different during those walks if she had known the extent of her impact on the community. The town that once felt safe now carried a shared burden, exemplifying how one tragic event could ripple through lives, reshaping perspectives and relationships. Amidst the transformation, Briarwood began organizing community forums focused on personal safety, mental health, and the importance of open conversation. Residents found comfort in connection, learning to support each other in ways they had never imagined. The scars would remain, a testament to loss and resilience. Yet from that grief emerged a deeper sense of community. In her absence, Sarah brought them together, reminding them that in darkness, they could still find light.